It was supposed to be a joke, a stupid drunken dare that we'd laugh about the next morning. Instead, I woke up with a gold ring on my finger and my best friend calling me husband. The sunlight bleeding through the curtains of our Vegas hotel suite felt almost too bright, too mocking. I blinked against it, groaning as my skull pounded like a snare drum. The smell of whiskey clung to my breath, the taste of regret coating my tongue. And then, as I rolled over, I saw him, Noah, sprawled across the sheets, shirtless, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of someone who had no idea the world had just split open beneath them. My best friend, my partner in crime, the man I'd secretly loved since sophomore year of college. And now, apparently, my husband. "Good morning, hubby." His voice was raspy, sleep-soaked, and for a terrifying second, I thought he was kidding. But then his eyes drifted to my left hand, and mine followed to the thin gold band glinting accusingly in the sunlight. My stomach flipped. "Noah, what the hell did we do?" He stared at me for a long moment, then broke into a slow, sheepish grin. "I think we got married. I'm Julian, 26, freelance photographer, chronic overthinker, and until approximately 8 hours ago, a proud bachelor. Noah and I have been friends for nearly a decade. We met in freshman year at NYU, bonded over a shared hatred of cafeteria coffee, and never really drifted apart. We traveled, worked, partied together, always towing that thin line between just friends and something more. At least I'd always hoped there could be something more. But he was Noah, golden boy heartbreaker, serial dater, master of non-commitment. And I was me. The guy he called at 2 a.m. when he needed someone to rant to. The guy who photographed his Tinder profile pictures. The guy he hugged a little too tightly when he was drunk but never kissed. Until last night, apparently. "Are you freaking out?" Noah asked, stretching lazily, like waking up married to his best friend was just another Thursday morning. "Yes, obviously. Are you not?" He shrugged, the corner of his mouth twitching. "I mean, it's not the worst person I could have accidentally married." "Noah, relax, Jules. We'll get it annulled. No harm done." It should have comforted me, the casualness, the simplicity of his solution. But instead, his words landed like a punch to the chest. No harm done. Like this was nothing. Like it didn't mean anything. I forced a laugh. Right? Easy fix. But deep down, a small, traitorous part of me wished he'd said something else. Something like maybe we shouldn't rush to undo it. The thing about Vegas is that it doesn't care about your intentions. Whether you're here to gamble, get drunk, or ruin your life, the city will hand you a shot glass and cheer you on. It doesn't matter if you were just two idiots celebrating Noah's promotion by sunrise. We'd crossed a line we could never uncross. The rest of that morning was a blur of logistics and legalities. We found the marriage certificate signed, sealed, and officiated by a man in an Elvis costume. There were photos on Noah's phone, too. Us, laughing, kissing, clinging to each other like we'd finally given in to something inevitable. I deleted them before I could look too closely. We booked flights back to New York that afternoon. It was supposed to be over before it even began. But somewhere over Kansas, Noah dropped a bombshell. "What if we didn't get it annulled?" I choked on my ginger ale. "What?" "I'm just saying," he said, like he wasn't suggesting something completely insane. "Maybe we try it. See where it goes." "Noah, we're not a couple." "Maybe we could be." Silence stretched between us, thick and trembling. My heart raced, but I forced myself to laugh it off. "You're hungover. You don't know what you're saying." "Actually," he murmured, eyes locked on mine, "I think I've never been more sure of anything. Back in New York, the absurdity of it all followed us like a ghost. Every time I looked down at my hand, that stupid gold band mocked me. Every time someone called me Mr. Walker, my pulse skipped. And Noah, he was acting like nothing was wrong. Cooking breakfast in my apartment. Stealing my camera to take candid photos of me. Holding my hand when we crossed the street. He'd moved in temporarily, his word. Not mine, and what was supposed to be a messy accident started to feel dangerously real. One evening, a week after Vegas, we were on the fire escape, drinking cheap wine from mismatched mugs. The city hummed below us, neon signs flickering in the dusk. Noah was talking about a new project at work, but I wasn't listening. I was too busy memorizing the curve of his smile, the way his hair caught the fading light. "Do you ever think," he said suddenly, "that maybe this wasn't a mistake?" I swallowed hard. "I think about it too much." He turned to me, his expression softer than I'd ever seen it. "Then maybe we stop pretending." It should have been easy to say yes. I'd spent years dreaming about what it would feel like Noah's hand in mine, Noah's lips on my skin, Noah looking at me like I was more than just his friend. But dreams are safe. Reality isn't. "People will talk," I whispered. "Your family, my clients, the press. Let them. You've never dated a man before." Maybe I was waiting for the right one. My breath caught. For the first time, I saw fear flicker behind his confident facade. He wasn't joking. He wasn't playing. He was terrified, and so was I. "I don't want to lose you," I said. "Not like this." "You won't." But I'd been here before. I'd watched Noah fall in love and fall apart. I'd held him through heartbreaks, each one chipping away at my own heart. And the idea of being the one to ruin us, to gamble our friendship on something fragile and uncertain, felt unbearable. So I did the cowardly thing. I pulled my hand away. The weeks that followed were torture. We pretended nothing had changed. We still grabbed coffee every morning, still argued about movies, still shared inside jokes that no one else would get. But there was a new distance, a silence hiding beneath every word. And yet, despite everything, Noah didn't move out. He cooked breakfast. He made me laugh. He kissed my forehead goodnight, like he was waiting patiently, stubbornly for me to catch up. One night, after another exhausting shoot, I found him asleep on the couch, his hand curled loosely around one of my camera lenses. I stood there, watching him breathe, and felt something inside me crack open. I didn't want to annul our marriage. I didn't want to go back to being friends. I didn't want to keep pretending. I wanted him. It was raining the night I finally told him. We were walking home from the subway, drenched and shivering, when I grabbed his wrist and pulled him into the glow of a streetlight. My heart hammered so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "I'm scared," I said, breathless. "I'm scared of what people will say. I'm scared of losing you. I'm scared that I'm not enough." Noah stepped closer, raindrops clinging to his lashes. "You're already enough. And I don't know how to do this," I whispered. "Then we'll learn together." And then, for the first time, really, truly, I kissed him. It wasn't dramatic or perfect. It was clumsy and wet and desperate. But it was real. And for the first time since that reckless night in Vegas, I wasn't running from it. We didn't fix everything overnight. Love isn't a magic spell that erases fear or makes the world kinder. There were questions and fights and long, difficult conversations. There were people who didn't understand, who judged, whispered, walked away. But there were also mornings when Noah woke me up with coffee and a kiss. There were nights when we fell asleep tangled together, our rings glinting in the dark. There was laughter and softness, and the quiet certainty that maybe, just maybe, that stupid, drunken mistake had been the best decision we ever made. And somewhere along the way, best friends became husbands, not because of a piece of paper or a wild night in Vegas, but because we chose it, every day, over and over, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. The morning after our first kiss felt like stepping into a brand new universe. I woke up to the soft press of Noah's hand resting on my chest, his breath warm against my shoulder. For a moment I didn't move, afraid that if I shifted, if I blinked too hard, the spell would break. I dreamed of this exact moment so many times, but it had always ended the same way, with me waking up alone. This time, though, he was real, solid. His wedding band brushed against my skin as he curled closer in his sleep, like he'd always belonged there. But reality came with the cruelest kind of weight. We hadn't told anyone. We hadn't faced the world. It was still just us, cocooned in the safety of my tiny apartment, where the city's noise couldn't drown us out. "Stop staring," Noah mumbled without opening his eyes. I froze. "I wasn't." "Yes, you were." He cracked one eye open, grinning. I could feel it. Creepy husband points for you. I rolled my eyes, but my chest tightened. Husband. The word felt too big, too dangerous. Go back to sleep. You're insufferable in the morning. He said, tucking his face into my neck. Guess you'll have to get used to it. And that was when I realized he wasn't joking. He wasn't just playing along with this ridiculous mistake. He wanted it. The following weeks blurred into a strange, tender rhythm. We found excuses to linger near each other in the kitchen, bumping shoulders as we made coffee. He started leaving his things scattered around my place, a hoodie draped over my chair, a toothbrush next to mine, rolls of film he pretended to buy for me, but always ended up using. But it wasn't all laughter and stolen kisses. The closer we drew together, the more real the risks felt. One evening, after a long shoot, I was editing photos at my desk when my phone buzzed. A message from my mother. Heard a rumor you got married in Vegas. Call me. My blood went cold. Noah, reading over my shoulder, whistled low. Guess the secret's out. This isn't funny. My hands shook as I set the phone down. How do I explain this to her? To anyone? He leaned against the wall, arms crossed. By telling the truth. You don't get it, I snapped. You've never had to explain who you are to anyone. You've never. His jaw tightened. You think it's been easy for me? You think I wasn't terrified when I kissed you in the rain? That I didn't spend years wondering why I couldn't just settle for the girls everyone expected me to be with? The room went quiet. My throat tightened as guilt washed over me. Noah, he exhaled, softer this time. I'm scared too, Jules. But I'm not scared of us. We flew to Boston the following weekend to visit my family. It was supposed to be casual dinner, conversation, the usual pleasantries. But my mother wasn't one for small talk. So, she said, eyes sharp across the table. Is it true? I felt Noah's hand brush against mine under the table, steadying me. Yes, I said, my voice thinner than I wanted. We got married. The silence was deafening. Forks clinked against plates. The hum of conversation in the restaurant faded into nothing. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. You always did have a tendency to make reckless choices. Heat rose in my cheeks. It wasn't reckless, wasn't it? You were drunk, in Las Vegas, with your. She paused, glancing at Noah like he was some uninvited guest friend. Noah cleared his throat, his voice calm but firm. With his husband. Her eyes snapped back to me. Is this really what you want, Julian? To throw away everything you've worked for? Your reputation? For? Stop. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. This isn't something I'm throwing away. This is the first thing that's ever felt right. My mother stared at me, stunned into silence. For the first time in my life, I didn't flinch under her gaze. And when Noah laced his fingers through mine in plain view of everyone, I didn't let go. The fallout wasn't immediate, but it came. Some clients canceled photo shoots, citing scheduling issues. Old friends stopped returning my calls. The internet, as always, had its own opinions once someone leaked our Vegas marriage license. Comments flooded, in some supportive, others cruel. But every time I faltered, Noah was there. He cooked dinner when I couldn't get out of bed. He left notes in my camera bag. You're stronger than you think. He reminded me, in 1,000 small ways, that I wasn't alone. One night, after a brutal day of work, I collapsed onto the couch, face buried in my hands. I don't know if I can do this, I whispered. Noah knelt in front of me, prying my hands away. Hey, look at me. I did. His eyes were steady, unflinching. Do you love me? He asked. My throat closed. You know I do. Then that's all we need. Screw the rest. Screw the whispers, the stares, the people who don't get it. We'll figure it out. Together. And somehow I believed him. Of course, love isn't just about holding each other through the storm. It's also about facing the things you'd rather ignore. One Saturday afternoon, as we unpacked groceries, Noah asked, too casually, do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't gotten married in Vegas? I froze, a carton of eggs in my hand. Why? Because I think I might have been too scared to ever tell you how I really felt. The words hit me like a wave. I'd spent years convinced I was the only one hiding something. But now, hearing him say it out loud, all those missed chances, all those almost moments, played in my head like a cruel montage. I wish you'd told me sooner, I whispered. He stepped closer, resting his forehead against mine. Me too. But maybe this is how it was always supposed to happen. By late autumn, the city felt different. Maybe it was just me, lighter somehow, more alive. My photos changed too. Instead of chasing perfection, I started chasing honesty. Couples holding hands on park benches. Strangers dancing in the subway. The way Noah looked at me when he thought I wasn't watching. One evening, as golden light spilled across our living room, I was setting up a tripod when Noah wandered in. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Experimenting." I gestured for him to sit. "Just humor me." He rolled his eyes but obliged, flopping onto the couch. I set the timer, then crossed the room and sat beside him. The shutter clicked just as he leaned in to kiss me. Later, when I looked at the photo, my breath caught. It wasn't polished. It wasn't staged. It was raw, imperfect, real. And for the first time, I realized this was what love looked like. But happiness has a way of scaring people more than pain. One night, months later, Noah came home late, shoulders heavy. His usual grin nowhere to be found. "What happened?" I asked. He dropped his keys on the counter. "Work. My boss thinks being married to me is bad for the brand." Anger flared hot in my chest. "That's ridiculous. Welcome to corporate America," he muttered. I crossed the room, cupping his face in my hands. "Then screw the brand. Screw the boss. You're not hiding who you are. Not anymore." His eyes softened, but fear lingered there. "You make it sound easy. It's not. But it's worth it." He pressed his forehead to mine, breathing me in. "God, Jules, what did I do to deserve you?" I smiled faintly. "You married me in Vegas." And for the first time that night, he laughed. We weren't perfect. We fought about dishes, about money, about how often I forgot to water the plants. We made mistakes, hurt each other, patched things up clumsily. But through it all, one truth remained unshaken. We chose each other. Not because it was easy, not because it was expected, but because it mattered. And as winter crept in, as snow dusted the city and the world grew quiet, I found myself staring at the gold ring on my finger and realizing maybe we hadn't made a mistake in Vegas. Maybe we just skipped all the unnecessary steps and landed exactly where we were meant to be. The first snow of the season fell in quiet sheets outside our apartment window. The city softened under a blanket of white. I was sitting at my desk, editing photos, when Noah walked in, his face pale and tense. He didn't speak right away, just stood in the doorway, running a hand through his hair like he didn't know how to start. I closed my laptop slowly. "What happened?" He swallowed hard. "They want me to step down." The words hit me like ice water. "What? Who?" "My company. The board." He leaned against the wall, looking exhausted. "They're calling it a conflict of interest and brand protection. But we both know what it is." My stomach twisted. "Because of us. Because I won't hide us." Silence stretched between us. The truth of it was suffocating. For years, Noah had been the golden boy, charismatic, dependable, the guy everyone wanted on their team. And now, because he dared to love differently, they wanted to cut him loose. I stood, crossing the room to grab his hands. "Then let them. You're more than that job." His eyes burned into mine, but there was a flicker of doubt, of fear. "You say that like it's easy. It's not. But I'd rather lose every client, every paycheck, every ounce of comfort, than lose us." His shoulders sagged, like the weight of the world was pressing down, but he pulled me into his chest, burying his face in my hair. "God, Jules, you're the only thing keeping me standing." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to Noah's slow breathing beside me. I thought about my mother's words, about the canceled clients, About the way people had looked at us on the street lately, not with cruelty. Not always, but with that sharp curiosity that slices just as deep. I thought about Noah, too. The man who'd kissed me in the rain, who'd called me his husband without hesitation, who'd stood in front of my mother and refused to shrink. He'd given up everything for me, for us. And a question gnawed at me. Was I strong enough to give him the same? The answer came a week later. I was in the middle of a photo shoot in Central Park, the snow glittering under pale winter sun, when my phone buzzed with a call from Noah's sister. "Julian," she said, her voice tight. "You need to come. It's Dad." My stomach dropped. Noah's father had been sick for years, heart problems, strokes, the kind of illnesses that never fully healed. But the tone in her voice left no room for denial. By the time I reached the hospital, Noah was already there, slumped in a plastic chair outside the ICU. His hands were clenched, his eyes red, but he didn't look up when I sat beside him. "He asked for me," Noah whispered. "For me and for you." The weight of it nearly knocked the breath from my lungs. His father had never been cruel, but he hadn't exactly been accepting either. A man of old-fashioned beliefs, the kind who spoke in silences more than words. We went in together. Noah's father lay frail in the hospital bed, machines beeping steadily. His gaze flickered between us, weak but sharp enough to cut. "I heard," he rasped, voice hoarse. "You too." Noah's throat tightened. "Yes, we're married." For a moment, I thought the man would explode, that he'd rage or curse or turn his face away. But instead, his eyes softened, just barely. "You love him?" he asked Noah. "Yes," Noah said without hesitation. His father's gaze shifted to me. "And you?" I swallowed hard. "More than anything." Silence again. And then the faintest hint of a smile. "Then take care of each other. Don't waste it. Life's too short." Noah choked on a laugh, tears streaming down his face. I squeezed his hand, my chest so tight I could barely breathe. And just like that, something cracked open. Acceptance. Maybe not perfect, maybe not complete, but real. After the funeral, life shifted in subtle ways. Noah was quieter, more reflective, like he'd aged a decade overnight. But there was also a steadiness in him I hadn't seen before. He started talking about things he'd never dared, moving out of the corporate world, starting something of his own. "A studio," he said one night, his eyes lighting up for the first time in weeks. "A place where people don't have to hide. Models, photographers, artists, anyone who's ever been told they don't belong." I stared at him, stunned. "You want to build that?" "Not just want," he said. "I need to." I didn't hesitate. "Then I'm with you." And for the first time, I realized we weren't just surviving anymore. We were building something, together. But the world didn't stop throwing punches. When word got out about Noah leaving his job and about us going into business together, the whispers returned. Some called us brave. Others called us reckless. And one night, scrolling through my phone, I found a headline that made my stomach turn. From Golden Boy to Scandal. Noah Walker throws career away for Vegas marriage. I wanted to smash the phone against the wall. But Noah just shrugged when I showed him. "Let them talk. We'll prove them wrong." And we did. Slowly. Painfully. The studio was small at first, one rented room above a laundromat, peeling paint and flickering lights. But it was ours. And when the first clients came, a young couple wanting engagement photos, a trans model seeking a safe place to pose, I saw the spark in Noah's eyes ignite into fire. "This," he whispered one evening, watching me adjust the lighting, "this is what I was meant to do. With you." Of course, love wasn't a fairy tale. There were nights we argued about money, about long hours, about the stress of proving ourselves. There were moments when fear clawed at me, when I wondered if we were strong enough to withstand the pressure. But every time we found our way back. Like the night I broke down after losing a big client. I sat on the studio floor, head in my hands, convinced I'd ruined everything. And Noah sank down beside me, wrapping his arms around me without a word. After a long silence, he murmured, "Do you remember the first photo you ever took of me?" I blinked, startled. "At the coffee shop, freshman year." You spilled your drink and nearly dropped the camera. He laughed softly. But you caught it. And then you caught me. That's what you've always done, Jules. You catch people. You see them. That's your gift. Don't let anyone take that away from you. His words anchored me. And when I looked into his eyes, I saw the truth that we weren't just surviving the storm anymore. We were learning to dance in it. Months passed. Winter melted into spring. The studio grew. So did we. But the moment that sealed everything came one evening in April. We were on the rooftop, the city glowing around us, when Noah pulled something from his pocket. For a second, my heart stopped because it was another ring. We've been married for months, he said, his voice shaking slightly. But we never really chose it. Vegas chose it for us. And I don't want that to be our story. I want it to be this. Here, now. With me asking and you saying yes. My breath caught. He knelt, holding out the ring like the world was ending. Julian, will you choose me? Not just by accident. Not just because of a stupid drunken night, but because you want to. Tears blurred my vision. My chest felt too full to contain it all. Yes, I whispered. 1,000 times, yes. And when he slipped the ring onto my finger, this one chosen, deliberate ours, I realized something. Vegas might have started our story, but love was what would carry it. I never thought the sound of a gavel could break and heal me at the same time. The courtroom was packed, faces pressed close with curiosity, judgment, some even with cruel amusement, as if our lives were nothing more than a cheap Vegas spectacle dragged into daylight. My palms were sweating against the wooden bench, my throat so dry I could barely swallow. And then Ethan squeezed my hand. Just one squeeze, firm, grounding, alive. Mr. Carter and Mr. Hayes, the judge said, glasses perched low on her nose. You understand the annulment will dissolve your marriage as though it never happened. The word never cut sharper than any blade. Never that meant erasing the night when Ethan's laugh had carried me through the dizzy neon. When his lips tasted like freedom and recklessness. When for the first time in years I hadn't felt alone. Yes, Your Honor, I whispered, though my voice cracked. Ethan's jaw tightened. He didn't echo me. Instead, he stood taller, defiance blazing in his hazel eyes. No, he said, steady as stone. The whole courtroom gasped. My heart lurched so violently it nearly burst through my ribs. No, the judge repeated, clearly irritated. No, Ethan said again. His voice didn't waver. I won't annul it. I won't pretend it never happened. Because it did happen. And I love him. The silence after those words was suffocating and electrifying all at once. People shifted, whispered, the sound rippling like a storm breaking over us. My ears roared, my vision blurred. But through it all, Ethan didn't look away from me. He didn't flinch. He had set his truth down in front of the world, no matter how ugly the consequences. And me, for the first time in my life, I felt the walls of fear begin to crumble. I don't remember standing, don't remember the shuffle of shoes or the judge's gavel striking like thunder. All I remember is facing Ethan, my chest aching with everything I had buried for years. I love him too, I said, my voice hoarse but finally free. The courtroom wasn't ready for that. But I was. We didn't win that day. The judge, frowning at the chaos erupting, told us to sort out our personal affairs before she'd finalize anything. But to me, it wasn't a loss. Because for the first time, Ethan and I weren't hiding anymore. The following weeks were a blur of gossip and backlash. Our families called, some with anger, others with quiet disappointment. My photography gigs slowed, clients dropping me without explanation. Ethan's job at the firm was suddenly under review, his colleagues whispering in hallways. It was brutal, and Yves never let go of my hand. Not once. There were nights I wanted to run, to undo everything, to escape the pressure crushing us. But every time I tried to retreat, Ethan pulled me back with nothing more than his presence. A dinner he cooked when I couldn't eat. A hand at my back when I couldn't breathe. A whispered reminder, you're not alone in this. We began to rebuild. Slowly, painfully, but together. I booked smaller gigs, portraits of people who didn't care who I loved. Ethan left the firm and took a leap into nonprofit work, helping kids who needed someone to believe in them. We sold the story of two idiots who woke up married in Vegas into something else, something real. And somehow, amidst the noise, we found quiet moments that belonged only to us. Like standing in our tiny kitchen, flour smeared across Ethan's cheek as we attempted to bake bread neither of us knew how to make. Like collapsing on our worn couch, my head on his chest, the rhythm of his heartbeat reminding me that love could be simple even when the world wasn't. Like walking back into that same Vegas chapel a year later, not drunk this time, not reckless, but fully awake, fully aware, and fully in love. The officiant, amused recognition in his eyes, chuckled as we stood before him. Back again, huh? This time for real. This time forever, Ethan said without hesitation. And me? My hands trembled as I slid the ring onto his finger, but my heart was steady. Because love, I had learned, isn't about the absence of fear. It's about choosing each other despite it. It's about standing up in a courtroom full of strangers and saying no to erasure. It's about waking up in Vegas and realizing that sometimes mistakes are really miracles in disguise. So when Ethan kissed me that day soft, certain, infinite, I knew we had finally rewritten our story. Not as an accident, not as a punchline, but as two men who chose each other against the odds. And this time, it wasn't the neon lights of Vegas that made the world glow. It was us. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.